Did you know your body provides life-saving medicine? Discover just how exercise prevents disease, boosts mental health, and treats chronic conditions. No prescriptions needed.
All right.
Mr. Slade, what's
Nice,
I
that?
nice.
like it. I like it.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
Tim. Wow.
All right.
I didn't know you were that creative, Tim. I just had no idea.
And I work on it, Bob. It's a lot of, it takes a lot of work, but I pull it off there. I guess it's being around my outstanding brain researcher and expert in drug-free, medication-free pain management and pain relief elimination, along with the chairman of Brim Health, who is a fanatic in delivering, community wellness and understanding medication and how it affects everyone. Me, I'm just a poor little a wellness plan manager, a general contractor for your health, Bob. That means just like a general contractor can help someone renovate their house or build a new one. That's what I do for people in achieving their optimal wellness with that, with the
Well,
specialization in
that's
pulse.
certainly important. That's certainly important, Tim.
Thank
Certainly
you. Okay.
important.
With the
Yep.
specialization in pulse electromagnetic field therapy and how that helps everyone. Together, we are WellWaveNOW. And we're starting you off today on a 8-part series that talks about exercise as medication. And because of the influence of our esteemed colleague, Bob Levine, on that mind-body connection, we couldn't leave that part out of that. That's going to be an 8-part series where we're really going to touch on and take you through, one, introduce you to the concept of exercise as medicine, but then number two, talk to you about movement snacks. And so how little pieces of movement throughout the day and incorporating that into your life can lead to dramatic changes in your health. Then there's a rising thing that's coming about called ancestral movement, connecting us to what was done in the past that kept people healthy and moving. We're going to talk about that and explore that and take you through how that does and does not help. And also in the series, we'll go into the how exercise can really help you rewire your brain and for neuroplasticity. Also, an important part of work is how breathing impacts and how breathing can impact your health, enhance your exercise. We'll take you into some of the ancient arts like Tai Chi and Qigong and how that impacts your immune system and delivers health on that. And we'll also go into some standard things on strength and resistance training and really tell you help you understand what that really does, for your health as well. And we'll just give at the end a holistic approach to medicine, as we always do, try to give you ways to incorporate wellness into your daily life and routine and just have it be a way of well-being through exercise here. So before we get off onto our first episode here, Armand, I know how brilliant you are out there and how quick you are on your feet. So I'm gonna put you on the spot right now, Armand, and tell us what brought you here today, and what can we kind of focus on a little bit?
Okay, everybody make the pose.
Armand, here he goes. Armand.
Yeah, that's right. Armand
Always
is
looking for
our
good
resident.
information and new science, and
Mhm.
there's when it comes to what health is, that's a moving target. Nobody's got a lock on all the good ideas, and because of everybody's uniqueness, it's a whole nother thing you have to take into account. Uh, so I mean, we can go on this for days and hours as far as what things work and what things may not work, but there are exceptions like anything to the rule. So just depending on what area we're talking about would be how I would, engage and give my viewpoint on all the things I've tried in the last 40 years, which is
Just
quite a
about
few.
it, just about everything, right, Armand? You've tried just about everything. And by the way, Armand, you tailor programs for people who you coach, right? You tailor
Oh
specific
yeah,
for people.
everything's customized. Again, the lab work is the key, the cornerstone. And then now do the DNA methylation test so I could better understand, what you inherited from your parents. So that's a one-time test, but what that tells us is based on what you inherited from your parents, what nutrients, methylation means absorption. So what nutrients you're going to absorb that are best for your genetic makeup. And I took the test myself and learned a lot. I mean, fasting is important for me. I need to stay away from MSG. I have a certain gene that will not let me process folic acid, which is in everything. And so it's not helpful to me. And it causes folate depletion, which is not good. And people don't know much about that because of what's in the media, and I mean, they recommend folic acid for females,
All
for
right.
pregnant
Yep.
females.
Absolutely.
That's
So
not
why-
necessarily the best route to go. Now, if you want the best route to go, you need methylated folate because it will absorb. So if you have the gene, you're still gonna, you're gonna absorb methylated folate. And the thing is folic
Right.
acid
All right.
is
Thank you. I appreciate it. And certainly that folic acid and other things you provide are necessary to fuel one to be able to exercise we talk about today. Anyone else out there would like to sort of share why they're here and help us drive we've got our direction, but we can change and navigate that direction if anyone else would like to comment about what brought them here today as well. Patricia, go right ahead. We can't hear you, Patricia. Something's off with the sound there.
Hello, I will tell you that Dr. Bob speaks well on our Happy Neighborhood Project meetings. And so I came in to hear science-based nutrition, healthy as a horse. Glad to be here and learn from you guys.
All right, thanks, Patricia. So we'll go right ahead. I'm going to stop Dr. Bob from responding. It's my role here to keep Dr. Bob's head small. Everybody else pumps him up. I can't let it get too big because the screen that help take over the screen.
And Tim made me get a haircut. He made me get a haircut.
And we're going to hear a lot from him today, and certainly, but I do share with you your appreciation of Bob and what he brings to the table. But I also like to give him a little bit of Midwestern humor there and prod him a little bit on that. So we're going to, I think what's also key here, though, for those of you who don't know Armand, who's a frequent guest here with us, and we appreciate it. Armand, is into how you fuel the body, nourish the body, but he's as part of that, he's also in developing the body and is a very good bodybuilder. I mentioned that because he's used to exercise in that way and other methods. We've got Breck, who was trained and ran a marathon and certainly has to put his body through for stamina and performance. And Dr. Bob and I were both Division I collegiate athletes. Him in that very easy sport of football, me in that demanding, rigorous sport of wrestling.
Well, wrestling is a demanding sport. There's no doubt about it.
All right, but football is too. So, and with that, so certainly we bring to bear that background, and then I was a martial artist for a long time as well, did some other things. So certainly we bring along that background of as a sport, as a combat sport, as a physical sport, as an endurance sport, and we bring that to bear a little bit here. But also, what we want to distinguish with you the differences between, I think it qualifies us partially to distinguish before you the differences between exercise for physical fitness, exercise for performance, exercise for bodybuilding, and exercise really for medicine, as we're talking about here. Certainly there's overlap, and certainly if you approach it for fitness and for stamina, you're going to get some of those benefits. But we're really talking about here as what exercise can bring to you for disease healing, disease prevention, and disease management. That last part of this means how can you optimally live well with what you've got there. And the various forms of exercise will, so physical therapies, it will, mention Breck in a second, will overlap that. The physical therapy is helping you address usually a specific problem in a specific area. This we're talking about not only that, but also systemic health. Breck, you want to?
Yeah, no, I just, before we moved and dove all the way into to exercise as medicine, our topic today, I see that Tim changed the script a little bit. He likes to rib Dr. Bob, but not me so much. But I told him, hey, in the script, you need to say, here's our experience. We have two D1 athletes, so Division I athletes, and then me, the guy that got cut from his junior college volleyball team. But no, I have run multiple, over 20, probably 25 marathons, and have that experience in training and proper diet in order to maintain that 26.2. And don't let that 0.2 fool you. It's harder than the other 20 miles.
I didn't realize you had ran that many, Breck. Now I'm scared of you. When we get in that ancestral movement, we'll have to talk to you like those guys who you see some of the Native American indigenous populations used to be able to run down a deer run them down over hundreds of miles. That's probably what Breck's out there doing. So, but with that, Breck, we're going to turn it over to you to kind of take us into now an overview and talk to, how exercise really impacts that health a little on the various types a little bit, right?
Yeah, I have about 12 different items here that wanted to discuss. The most, number one for me is the cardiovascular health, right? And the benefits that you get from aerobic exercise, such as walking, running, cycling, to reduce the risk of heart disease. So you can lower blood pressure, improve. I used to do a lot of swimming too. I only did one triathlon, Dr. Bob. It was a college length, a sprint, and it about killed me. So I decided I'm just going to stick with running. I'm a great swimmer. I thought I was a great swimmer, but man, that uses every ounce of energy. That's why they put it at the beginning of a triathlon, because people would die if it were at the end.
Right.
Literally would drown. So I understand that and have a deep respect for those triathletes. But yeah, so swimming is also another good cardiovascular fitness routine, and also improve cholesterol levels, enhance just your overall circulation and having that aerobic exercise. Dr. Bob.
So I just wanted to say something here because there's a guy named Dr. Sears who has the PACE program, and I read his book, and I think it's really fascinating because he talks about how if you are running, let's say, or walking or swimming, and you're not varying your rate of exercise, it's not like a car or an airplane where the engine is designed to run at a certain RPM for a long period of time, right? The human body is not designed necessarily to keep a level physiological exertion, right? So it's good to vary. In this PACE program, it's varying. So if you're running, it's speeding up and slowing down, or any of these. So I just wanted to bring up that Dr. Sears and his PACE program is very interesting in that regard, because if you're exercising and you're keeping your physiological output at a constant level, the body's not training itself for the spikes. So that's what I want to say.
No, that's great.
Dr. Bob, I thought I had you down on your things that you like to really emphasize. I thought one thing you were going to add at there, and I'm going to prompt you to do so, is you often always get right back on those insulin and sugar levels in the body. And I thought, why don't you talk a little bit how aerobic exercise helps in those regards?
Well, I think Breck's probably going to touch on that.
Yeah, number two and number three, right? Go together, and so let's talk about that. Obesity and type 2 diabetes, right? So regular physical activity combined with a healthy diet is certainly the best way to manage health. And there's a lot going around right now with these injections and how they're helping people drop pounds. And the reality of it, I talked to a couple of patients that were on that therapy, and it was successful for them as a jump start, right? But I'll tell you, the main reason why I believe it was successful is after the injection, they're so nauseous, they can't eat for the next 2 days. So you're literally starving for 3 days.
Like detoxing.
Yeah, I feel like you can even consume any calories. So that, some benefits there, but probably more harm than good.
Now with those folks, Breck, have they gone off it? Have you kept track of them? And if they've gone off it, what's happened with them?
Yeah, it's too early yet to see what the bounce back is going to be, which we call yo-yo dieting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really been able to see what some of those long-term effects are going to be. We have some pretty good ideas what they might be. Dr. Bob, your hands up. You probably have some ideas.
Well, given that Tim was putting me on the spot there, I just wanted to address what he's talking about. And I wanted to let people know about what I call the carbohydrate roller coaster. So Tim mentioned that it's really important to keep blood sugar levels constant. So when blood sugar levels are constant, which means we're eating in a balanced way, we're not spiking it with juice or soda, which is like poison practically, in my opinion. But so when you spike the bloodstream with sugar, the pancreas has to release insulin to bring the blood sugar down, and then it can bring it down below the level of what's appropriate because it's bringing it down, right? And then people are going to crave. They're going to crave, and if they're eating a high carbohydrate diet, they're going to crave carbohydrates, and I call it the carbohydrate roller coaster. You're going to eat carbs, insulin comes up. It's like a roller coaster. And so you want to talk about yo-yo eating? That's one of the big issues with yo-yo eating. So that's why it's so important to take in fats, protein, and carbs together in a meal at the same time to balance the intake, keep the blood sugar levels relatively constant.
Right.
Yeah.
And the exercise helps in that keeping it constant. And it also helps in making sure that people remain sensitive to insulin to improve that process a little bit.
That's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to add to the aerobic and say that, you know, resistance training is also good for diabetes. So that helps keep that insulin levels and that sensitivity still there, like you talked about controlling.
Breck, what do you mean by resistance training? Can you say something about that?
Yeah, so bands are good. You can even do your own muscle, you know, retention, right? You can
isotonic or something like that.
Isotonic, and I'm sure Armand just came off mute. He's probably got about 1,000 exercises for us.
Take 1 minute, Armand.
Well, they're all good. The bands are good. Your body weight can be good. So there's not a lot of limitations. And then depending on what level you're at. So if you get more advanced, then, you know, obviously you want to look at other things because you will get conditioned for the different exercise you're using. And so the purpose of it is to break down muscle and make the body have to adapt. That's the whole purpose of resistance training. That's a form of hormesis, which is, you know, put the body under stress and let the body adapt to it. People need to understand that if you just do the same thing, it will level out and you won't get near the result that you're looking for.
Right. So that's I think that's in terms of the muscle maintenance and in terms of the building.
Thank you, Armand.
With that, thanks, Armand. But I would add to that, you know, what that and Breck. Well, Breck, did you have some other things you wanted to before I pontificate? I wanted to see if you wanted to, you had other things to add in terms of what resistance training brings to the table.
No, that I'm good on that. I'm ready to either hear your pontification or move on to mental health.
Well, so I'll pontificate a little bit because you know I think I mentioned one time I actually started resistance training with weights when I was 12 years old, 12 or 13. I don't know what time of year it was, and I couldn't do a pull-up. And I'll date myself in junior high, not middle school. And half the class was laughing at me. The other half was cheering me on. This is for the presidential physical fitness chance. And I said, not going to happen to me again. So that's when I started. But so with that, you know, but what's very key for all people and for women as well, for women especially, as we start taking a look at what resistance training brings to the table, is used to help it can help in bone development. That stress that Armand talked about putting on the system, putting on that also functions clear down to the bone level to help people produce those bones, keep them strong, help stave off the osteoporosis and other things of that nature. So that also, when you've done that, then you've reduced your risk of fractures, you've reduced other things that can happen to you. So that's what I wanted to add about the resistance training before talking to the very important part of also mentally how exercise can help you.
I'll pontificate a couple other things if it's okay. I mean, joint strength, your mobility, the bone density, these are all critical factors of doing resistance training. You don't get that from cardio. So that's what you need to understand. And then the more you retain muscle is your longevity. You know, as we age, you're going to deal with sarcopenia if you don't do anything to maintain your muscle tissue. And that's basically what takes you out over time.
Yeah. And go ahead and define sarcopenia, Armand, for those.
So sarcopenia is basically called muscle wasting. And as we become more anabolic resistance over time, you know, you lose muscle just because the hormones decline over time. Hormones, what you need to maintain muscle tissue, they will decline, but then also over time, depending on what you're doing, you're going to still lose muscle tissue. And that's how people become very frail, and then they fall and then break a hip or whatever. And then after that, it's pretty much over because they're bedridden, and they lose all the muscle when you're bedridden. So,
all right, thanks, Armand. I appreciate it. So.
Yeah.
Breck, you're Dr. Bob has something before we get back to you, Breck. So,
So I just want to caution everybody because people think that, oh, the way I de-stress is through exercise, which exercise is a great way to liberate oneself from the stress of the moment. But I want to mention to people that it's really important to be able to manage. We don't exercise 24/7 or even during the whole all day long. So we're exercising for an hour or two, whatever it is. And so it's really important to manage stress, not rely on exercise to be the big stress reliever, because that's not going to work in the long run. It's got to be a concerted effort to de-stress using exercise and everything else that's possible that we've already talked about in other of our episodes.
Yep. Yeah, and that's actually a good segue right into the next topic. Although we were already talking about things that go into osteoporosis, which would be number 6 for me. And that strength training obviously helps with with bone density, bone strength. In fact, there's a whole franchise out there. I believe Tony Robbins is a big investor and probably spokesperson for that. Is it OsteoStrength? Have you guys seen
Osteo Strong?
Osteo Strong, yeah.
But they use
Yeah.
power plates, which is what they use for the astronauts to keep the bone density up when they're up in space.
Right, exactly. But hey, let's move on to and we hopefully we'll have enough time to get through everything. But exercise and mental health. Wow, some amazing benefits in which Dr. Bob was talking about or alluding to. But exercise has been shown to reduce the symptoms of depression and anxiety. Activities like your martial arts, Tim, or yoga. I know you're not a big fan of yoga, but similar brain mindset and cognitive function there. Walking, swimming can boost your mood, reduce stress, and improve your overall mental wellness. So I always say, get out and do something. Take a walk outside. Get some natural vitamin D, and you're also getting some circulation going and movement. Just movement in general will improve mood.
Absolutely. And so what I do with people is I make guided meditation audio tracks where I want them to be able to listen to that and reprogram their subconscious mind so that at any time during their life, if they get a lot of benefit from exercise and relieving stress and some of these other symptoms you talked about, Breck, they can actually do that when they're not exercising. That's the key. Can they do that when they're not exercising? So I like to use guided meditations, audio tracks of 15 minutes. It's enough to have people really tuning into what they need to do outside of the exercise.
Well, breath work is good too. Don't forget about breath work.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that. We'll get to that, Armand. We've got a whole episode on breath. We got a part of our 8-part series. We've got a whole episode on that, which we want you to be there for that one too. Go ahead.
Yeah. So cognitive function, goes hand in hand with mental health, right? And physical activity, particularly aerobic exercise, has been linked to improving cognitive function and lowering the risk of cognitive decline. And it's a great resource for reducing the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. I'll put in the show notes an entire, I think I've got about 20 some odd studies on the benefits of exercise and reducing the risk of Alzheimer's. That I'll add those resources into the show notes.
Yeah, that's very, very key. We shouldn't jump over that a little bit. That last part you mentioned, it is being shown now, being uncovered. And I'm gonna tweak Dr. Bob again here. So where Dr. Bob always talks about studies and whether or not they're good and what they find. But there are studies now that are beginning to show that the effect of exercise on things like dementia and Alzheimer's, being able to stave it off or help address it. So thank you for bringing that up, Breck.
Well, and also that feeds right into PEFP. Hold on. And a guided meditation audio track just pop up on my phone. Relieve stress, optimize health, and increased performance. That's a new one. Anyway, Tim, the PEMF feeds into that. Exercise and PEMF together are really cool too.
Yeah.
Pulse electromagnetic field.
Right. And it's, it's good. It has a lot of benefits, but also what it helps do in this particular realm is it will help people exercise harder, longer, get more out of it, recover faster to be able to do it, avoid the soreness from certain exercise. So they enjoy it and some people like to get sore until they've got, oh, if I don't get sore and tight, then I haven't done anything. I'm no longer one of those. It's me, I want to every day wake up without that soreness and be able to push on. And that's part of what PEMF brings to the table.
Yeah, so PEMF, I just want to make everybody aware that PEMF is pulse electromagnetic field therapy. And what we talk about all the time are these mats that you can lay on. And Tim is an expert in all that. So if you want information about that, check with Tim on that. But these mats are fantastic. You lay on them for 8 to 15 minutes twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. Increase your local blood flow, which is what exercise is doing. It's opening up the capillaries. So it's a way to get it in addition to exercise. You can get it with the PEMF therapy.
Yeah, one other thing on that too about circulation and PEMF is, something that I struggled with was not debilitating at all, but I had RLS or restless leg syndrome for over 20 years. I had it so severe that I would literally wear a hole in my fitted sheet because I'm rubbing my feet together every night trying to get comfortable. And after about a week and a half, I was able to completely eliminate something I struggled with for 20 years.
Absolutely. Yep. Beautiful. Nice. And, and for me, if I dive in that just a second, from my old wrestling days and martial arts, I had some ripped up knees. And so over the years, I had developed osteoarthritis as well as muscle knots and scar tissue. And so that PEMF really broke up the muscle knots, brought down the swelling, also reduced the scar tissue so that I could get back to exercising more to talk about here. And so it fed off it. But as you talked about, Breck and alluded to, I think, it's just, to back up what we say here, there are people and I encourage people to go out and take a look at and find things where exercise is being prescribed now in general for a number of things. Take Parkinson's. There's a thing called rock steady boxing, where they're finding that that's one of the best exercises, best things for someone with Parkinson's for balance, to control the symptoms. And you take one thing we didn't touch on was stretching. You find people with fibromyalgia being prescribed and told that they could go stretch because that can help with the pain and bringing that down and some inflammation associated with it. So although I think we're kind of we're trying to lead here and are leading a change in the thinking that it's not just exercise for fitness and enjoyment, not just exercise for performance, but also exercise as for true, as we talked about, disease prevention, disease management, and optimal living with chronic conditions as well there.
Yeah, and also healthful longevity. I mean, really, exercise is an important component to healthful longevity.
Absolutely. We have one other note in the chat here from one of our wonderful participants today, Cheryl McBride, that's here and happy to learn more in the health area. Thank you all for sharing. I feel this is a time well spent. Bless you all. So thank you for that comment. I've also put, Tim's put some contact information up there for how to reach Dr. Bob and himself, drbobtalks.com, and Tim at wellnesswaveclub.com. I've also just put some information in the link there. This is a free gift to everyone. And I'll put this information in the show notes too, so that you have it. It's a free health risk assessment. If you can respond correctly to the first few questions on this assessment, I think it's like 20 questions, but the first 5 are key. If you can respond to those correctly, it'll literally add a decade to your life. If you cannot respond to those questions correctly, you may want to have a visit with us. So I've put my Calendly link in there for a time to set up for a one-to-one.
Okay. And then just real quickly here, we can't really dive into these, but I don't want to be neglectful on that. So, we talked about aerobics, we talked about resistance training on that, test a little bit on flexibility and stretching, but both flexibility and stretching and balance exercise, Armand talked a little bit about the effect on balance and things and joints. Those also play a role in this whole exercise as medicine. So if you take the flexibility and stretching exercises, like I mentioned a little bit of that in terms of fibromyalgia, but it's also in good just in general to help reduce pain from various areas. I've had clients that have had, back problems, sciatic problems, they've had stenosis, they've had scoliosis, and exercise has really helped with those particular issues. Stretching and different types of movements have helped with those particular issues. So don't leave out it's a very simple thing such as stretching as to how impactful that can be on someone. Working on the balance, and that's where even I will acknowledge that the yoga can help with that. I'm just from my martial arts background and having gone to it, I'm probably a little envious of the fact of how much yoga has swept the country, and I wonder why. And I say people also should look at the qigong and look at Tai Chi for different reasons. And you look at the Tai Chi, which is really a low impact aerobic exercise that really does develop the muscles and the balance. And those are things that are good for helping to not make you a fall risk, to help with the neurological function and motor function and things of that type and things of that nature. So in addition to the aerobic, in addition to the resistance, don't forget the balance part, the balance exercises that help with maintaining health. And don't forget the flexibility and stretching exercises as all being important of that. So that kind of wraps up this session, which is just, again, the introduction to the concept and stressing the importance that that exercise can play as medicine. And again, now we're going to take you into over the next next 7 episodes and discussion more specific on how you can build it into your daily routines, what more on specific types of exercise bring to the table to really kind of help you lead a healthier and healthier life and avoid diminished capacity. Go ahead, Breck.
Yeah, and then I'm going to always focus on where we can prevent disease, right? So, or chronic situations, and so we haven't even covered the benefits that exercise has on arthritis, cancer.
Yes.
There are certain cancers that can be deterred with regular exercise: breast cancer, colon cancer, chronic pain. This is Dr. Bob's expertise. Exercise, low impact activities, and how it can benefit chronic pain, pulmonary disease, sleeping disorders, hypertension, to kind of round up the disease states that exercise will benefit.
Absolutely. Great kind of wrapping up point there. And we will get into in our series more on that and which exercises to do it and again, how to build in your daily routine. But I'm glad that Breck emphasized for us again, because we're not just talking about how do you avoid a cold or even reduce the flu. We're talking about some very serious things and how exercise, no prescription needed, can really help you defeat those things in your life.
It's also good for autophagy, which people don't realize, getting rid of the senescent old cells. And it's also good for your telomere length, which is the little shoestrings at the end of your chromosomes. Exercise helps that process stay more stable.
Why is that important, Armand? Can you say something about that?
Well, with autophagy, what happens is because of our toxic food system, you get these damaged cells over time and they become latent. And so they don't get utilized like they need to, and that's what can cause a cancer cell. It starts to replicate. But exercise uses up all this excess because it needs the energy to do it, and you don't have that kind of factor to have that, let that happen. So, but then the telomeres is basically as your chromosomes, as you're replicating cells, then you have the telomeres start to shorten, but the exercise helps to keep them longer. It helps produce more telomerase to do that. So just FYI in that area.
Outstanding. Yeah, that's a great explanation. Thanks.
Any questions that anyone else has? Just come off mute or put them in the chat here. We'd love to address them. We've got a few more minutes.
So at some point in the near future, I'm going to talk about effective muscle release versus conventional stretching. So,
we'll have time. Like next week we've got are we doing the movement stacking next week? You'll be able to talk about it then. But go ahead and pop a little bit in on it now, Bob. I can't stop you from one of your prized things, the muscle release. So go right ahead.
well, okay. So if the body is balanced and the muscles are at their normal muscle length, it should be almost unnecessary to, quote, warm up. And the reason why people have to warm up is because a lot of muscles in the body are in a contracted tonic, meaning all the time contracted state. Instead of the normal muscle length, they're in a contracted state. So, that's where people use conventional stretching to get that muscle elongated, and then they're ready to roll. But if you have a black belt in karate, for instance, walking down the alleyway, and there's 10 attackers that are ready to meet this karate guy, he can't say, "Excuse me, I'm just going to take 10 minutes. I'm going to warm up, and then I'll be ready to take all you out." They got to be ready to go, immediately. And so that's part of the training. And people who are ready to go instantly have most of their muscles in their body normal muscle length, and they're ready. So I say a muscle that's hypercontracted tonically or all the time is that muscle's not ready to go, and that's what causes muscles to be pulled and torn and everything else. And boy, even conventional stretching can be really helpful. When I was growing up doing sports, nobody was stretching. We just went out there and started running 100-yard dashes. It was crazy. I pulled more muscles, because I wasn't warmed up properly, and I didn't know anything about effect. So effective muscle release is a technique that retrains the muscles to go from an excessively contracted state to a release state. And that's what it
go into the dynamic versus static strategy as well on stretching. And I don't think a lot of people are real clear on the differences with that. Again, depending on what kind of exercise you're doing, it's not really good to do static stretching before. You don't want laxity in the joint. So you want to understand how dynamic stretching is a better alternative, and then do the static stretching at the end when you're already loose and you don't need to worry about joint laxity.
Yeah.
Right.
So Armand, go ahead if you would, and let's define the dynamic versus static for everyone.
Yeah, so dynamic stretches, doing jumping jacks, arm circles, and other joint related movements to get the tissues heated up, because you want to get the blood flow working and get the burster sac lubricating the joint and that kind of thing. So that's just basically doing movements that are going to warm the body up, but they're not static stretching. Static stretching is do a hold, let it release, do a hold, let it release. And if you're doing resistance training, it's not real productive to do that before, because again, if you get the joint too loose from the stretching, then it can cause that laxity, and it can cause you to get an injury. And that's not what we're looking to do. Again, because warming up is one thing, but you need the joint to be kind of tight when you're going to use some resistance training. So I'm talking more on a resistance training format. But like anytime you do dynamic stretching, you're pretty safe. It's just static stretching, I think, and these are my viewpoints as well. I think you got to be more cautious with it and more on point if you want to get the maximum result from the stretching. Of course, I'll let Dr. Bob highlight anything on that, because it's really his area. I'm just going my own personal experience.
Oh no, you're one of the experts. Hey, listen, next time you come on, I'm going to have a picture of you to show where you're showing off your amazing physique. So
Do the one with his really big fluffy hair. That's a good one. What year was that?
1987.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
What Armand brought up here, I think indeed is important, which we haven't got into and may not get into the series, but it is key for the audience and people who take this and then take proactive steps with it, is to understand, just like anything else, you really need to understand how to execute the exercise and what applies where and how to do it well, how to get the maximum benefit from that. So you should engage with someone like an Armand in one area, or Dr. Bob in his dynamic tension release to really understand how to get those things done. And as part of the series, we're going to bring you some folks, at least one person, maybe a couple, that really understand the Qigong and the Tai Chi, so you can understand how to get started on that. I did part of my martial arts. I never studied Qigong. I did study the Tai Chi, but people don't understand about, a lot of people don't understand about Tai Chi, especially the way it's taught in the US, is that it's also a really dynamic fighting art, and not just the slow movements you see on that. So I never studied it from the health aspects. I studied it from the fighting aspects of it with some very great people who people could look up. And I always like to talk about Kung Fu lineage. So my Kung Fu lineage, people could look up a guy named Peter Kim Ho Chu, and then also Google a person named Garrett Gee, who were father and son. And they can see they were very serious people, but I did not get the health aspects from it. So we're going to bring you some experts on the health aspects of Tai Chi and Qigong, on what that can do for you. Not on yoga, but
all right. I'm gonna give everybody something they can do at home. Okay, can I do that?
Sure, go right ahead, Doctor.
Okay, because I talk about effective muscle release, and so how many people in America have chronic back pain? It's probably in excess of 100 million people that have back pain. So what people can do, I want people at home to consider, or whenever you get a chance to do this, basically when you're standing up straight, just bend over to approach touching your toes, but only do it to where it's comfortable. Don't really push hard, and focus on your back and your hamstrings. People try and bend down to touch their toes, and they're stretching their back and their hamstrings right on the back side. So the first time I want you to bend over, do that. Focus on your back and focus on your hamstrings, the back of the thigh, and see how far down you can go to comfort level. Maybe you can get 4 inches from the ground. Maybe you can get 6 inches away from the ground. Maybe you can touch the ground. But what you want to do is then come back up. And then the next time, what I recommend you try is that instead of focusing on your back and the hamstrings, focus on your abdominal compartment muscles and your quadriceps, the front of the thigh. And as soon as you initiate the bend, contract your abdominal muscles, and then go down with the abdominal muscles contracted and the quadriceps in the front contracted. And you'll see that you can go down much further, because when the stomach muscles are contracted, the abdominal muscles in the front are contracted, the back muscles can release. Super cool. And it shows you that the muscles are reciprocal. The abdominal compartment muscles or stomach muscles and the back muscles are reciprocal. So that means when one contracts, the other can release, much like the bicep contracts, the tricep has to release. Okay, so give that a try, and that'll show you the essence of effective muscle release, releasing that back and releasing the hamstring. So when you contract the opposing muscles, that's the key.
That brings up another point, though. When it comes to training the abdominals, most people think they have to do these long range of motions, hanging leg raises, and these types of things. And your goal for abdominal work is to shorten the abdominal area, not to lengthen it, because that keeps it to contract and keeps it more in line with your torso. But these people doing these long range of motion, they're not getting that much benefit from it. So short range of motion and hold, squeeze, contract, and then release, hold and squeeze, contract. That's gets you a much more effective abdominal work, and it's pretty tough if you're doing it the right way. And then that also takes the pressure off the low back when you do your abdominals that way, just from the training aspect.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Armand. Perfect.
Yeah. Very good
point. I forgot to say is that when you're down there with your abdominal muscles contracted, keep them contracted as you come back up, and only release them until you get to the top. Then
it's really good for you too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that's how I keep my belly in, right? Because if you lengthen those muscles, it allows the belly to push out more. So,
oh yeah, well, it's not that beneficial, and it puts extra stress on the area too. So, anyways.
Right.
Yep. So, well, this has been a great session. Good information. I'm looking forward to the remaining 7 episodes dealing with exercise as medicine. And do you want to give us a brief overview, Tim, of next week's?
Yeah, so next week coming up, we have movement snacking, small steps, big
You got to explain. We got to explain movement snacking. The first time I heard that, I'm like, movement snacking. What are you talking about? Go ahead, Tim.
Well, just like people have health facts throughout the day, that the healthy eating, they take a little bar here. They might get a little popcorn without butter on it and with minimum, at least minimum salt. You got to have some. Other thing to do is you have some movement snacks because it doesn't take. They find it doesn't take I don't always have to go out and work out for 2 hours. You don't have to train like Dr. Bob when he was playing football. And if you can get in 5 minutes, 10 minutes burst of things here and throughout the day, take these movement stacks to build those into your life. I don't want to steal the thunder from next week, but you build those movement snacks into your life. Little small snacks throughout the day of different types will take you through. There's a world of health and wellness benefits you can get from that piece of snacking. And we're going to compare those a little bit with the traditional workouts that you see next week and really talk to you about how to make that effective muscle release and other things. We'll put that into a snack throughout your day.
That's right. They only take a couple. They only take a couple minutes to do. They're fantastic.
Yep.
And you can do them in the chair. You can do them standing up. You can do them laying down in bed. Perfect.
That's a snack.
It's a snack.
That's
That's a wrap. That's a
That's
snack.
a movement snack and a wrap.
Very good. Very good.
Perfect.
It's been really fun today, you guys. I really enjoyed it today. Thanks for all our guests for coming on, being part of our Exercise is Medicine series, and looking forward to seeing you next week. And tell your friends that they may want to get on here because they're going to learn a lot. And exercise is really, really important to healthful longevity, which is what we're all about.